Hello everyone, Aimer back again with another Mission Impossible episode review. I have a smile on my face because I just enjoyed watching Season 4, Episode 11, which is called The Brothers. So let's get started. Jim goes to a phone booth in his freaking massive white convertible for instructions this time. That car is huge. The mission. Prince Samandal has secretly imprisoned his brother, King Selim of Kamadan, so that he can have control over the massive oil royalties his country gets, and the IMF must rescue and restore Selim to the throne. The dossiers show us a very unflattering picture of guest agent Lisa, played by Michelle Carey, and the Hartford Repertory is joining the IMF for this one for some extra bodies. So there's a brief apartment scene in which we see that Lisa has a special compact that can release a liquid into a bottle. And then off we go to Kamadan. Reporters mob Paris, Jim, and Lisa as they head to a hotel, with Paris being tycoon Tarkus Demetrius. Samandal meets with his henchman, Dr. Labashi, that the Sheiks are impatient about the king's prolonged absence. Labashi says he needs more time to establish his hypnotic control over the king, and he's told that he has a month, no more. Secret Police Chief Hattafis arrives with the news of Paris's arrival, and Samandal seems excited at the idea of meeting Lisa, who he sees in the picture. Just at that moment, Paris arrives at the palace, saying that he has a previous appointment that he made with the king. Samandal agrees to meet with him. Hattafis tells his henchman, Ahmed, that he's worried about what might happen. A rich contract from which Hattafis will get a major piece hasn't been renewed yet. Paris tells Samandal that he will match the current offer, but cut the other third parties such as Hattafis out, enriching Samandal, and also agrees to let Lisa, whose name is Irina, for the purposes of the plot, have dinner with Samandal, and then whatever happens, happens, I guess. As Paris heads down the stairs, he suddenly collapses, asking for his own Dr. Jim to be summoned right away. Jim arrives to administer to Paris with Lisa in tow, who shyly accepts Samandal's offer of dinner. Meanwhile, Barney and Willie are busy at a machine shop as the repertory folks arrive with medical personnel, and they set up a couple of gurneys. At dinner, Lisa and the prince partake from an expensive bottle of cognac, gifted by Paris earlier. And after the food taster Bayram checks it out and pours her a glass, Lisa activates the compact, which releases a drug, which she ensures ends up in Samandal's glass. Samandal dismisses the server and starts to put the moves on Lisa, but quickly feels the drug's effect and collapses, with Lisa knocking the table over for effect, and also to break the bottle. The drug gives Samandal the symptoms of uremia, with Dr. Labashi and Hattafis confirming Lisa's alibi that she ate and drank the same things the prince did. And Lisa lets slip that Jim is actually a renowned urologist, visiting the country under an assumed name. Hattafis summons Jim, who says that the prince needs an immediate kidney transplant, and Samandal tells Labashi to go get the king. Jim is hesitant to perform the surgery as he doesn't want to attract attention to himself or the prince, as he claims his wife doesn't know where he's gone, and the troupe decides that equipment will be brought to the palace and the transplant can be done in the large gymnasium. Jim calls Barney to alert him it's go time, and goes through the motions of convincing the nearby hospital to send the equipment, and the sedated king is brought to the palace. The gym is set up for the procedure, as Lisa bumps into Hattafis, who is disturbed by her nonchalance towards him. She tells him she's not afraid of him, because part of the prince's deal with Paris, Tarkus, is that Hattafis is out of the picture completely, which will happen right after the operation. Ahmed watches as the IMF prepare the surgical area, with the repertory blocking his view to hide the fact that they're setting up some items. Barney and Willie head to the basement underneath the gym and start cutting through the roof, while Labashi examines the cognac bottle in the lab. Lisa tells him that Paris needs his help, and he comes in with a gun demanding answers. Paris, dressed in scrubs, comes up behind him and knocks him out, putting on Labashi's glasses and heading to the gymnasium as him. Hattafis, Ahmed, and Bayram continue to watch as the IMF goes through the motions of the surgery, simulating skin and blood and whatnot. Barney signals to Jim that he's ready, and thanks to the specially rigged gurneys, the men in the viewing area have no idea that the IMF is lowering the prince and king into the basement, putting dummies in their places. Willie and Barney quickly shave off Samandel's beard and set him up to look just like the king, as Hatafis whispers to Ahmed, who goes downstairs to kill the main power, just as the IMF is ready to send the prince back up. Fortunately, Barney is able to rig it back together to Hatafis' abject frustration. He's forced to give a wry smile as Dim indicates that everything is okay. The prince does get sent back up, and the king is fitted with Samandel's facial hair. The final signal is sent, and the king is put back in the gym, and the operation completes successfully. As the king and prince are wheeled back into the infirmary, Hatafis tells Ahmed to summon the sheiks. He waits until King Selim is left alone in his room, then heads in and turns off his oxygen, and watches as he dies, of course expressing shock as a nurse finds him and screams out. The sheiks arrive, and Hatafis tells them that Samandal, aided by Labashi, has murdered Selim. The real King Selim is revived by the IMF, confused but unhurt, and after shaking hands with Jim, heads downstairs to find Labashi, declaring himself regent for the moment, with this ending.
Of our people, and in my ability to carry out the great work which was so close to His Majesty's heart.
Mission accomplished, and the IMF head away. I'm going to give this episode a grade of an A-. I think that this is a really, really fun episode with a really, really good story. I enjoyed it a lot, as you can probably hear just from the tone of my voice as I'm kind of doing the recap here. The story, it may be a little bit contrived in terms of the plot and things like that, but it really is a lot of fun. It's entertaining to watch, and I feel that it really does have really good even rewatch value. I was thoroughly entertained, and I really, really enjoyed it. One of the things that it reminds me of is the season 1 episode, The Legend. Everybody remembers that one. I'm sure that's the whole one with Gunnar Hellstrom, with the whole "let me be your Führer" thing. Lloyd Battista in this episode, he certainly doesn't get as much screen time or dialogue as Gunnar Hellstrom did in that episode. But even the time that he does get, and his kind of like over-the-top performance of Samando is perfect to me. He really, really, really makes the most of his minutes in that role. And it's a shame, by necessity in the plot, that he really doesn't get more time with that. I really, really enjoyed his performance here. Even though most of it was just kind of lying there. But, whatever. Can't have it all. Also really, really good. The other guest stars, Joseph Ruskin as Colonel Hatafis, he turns out to kind of really be the focal point of the episode in terms of being an antagonist, and the one that the IMF kind of has to manipulate. He's great. Lee Berger as Dr. Labashi is also really great. Even the minor guest stars, who don't, do a whole heck of a lot, but the whole plot and the whole production with all these stars, it just seems to come together and coalesce really, really, really well. I don't know how they pulled it off, but real kudos to the production team on this one, in the way that they're able to pull that together. The teamwork is great. This is reminiscent of earlier episodes in seasons 2 and 3. It's almost a Power of 5 episode. It's as close as you can come. It's just really too bad that Lisa's role in the plot, it's kind of minimal. It's important. She's got a couple of really, really, key places where she needs to be at. So it's I would say that it's almost right up there in the earlier episodes in season 3, where the Power of 5 is on display. And I think that's also a very, very important reason why this should be considered a really, really good episode. I love the little details that we see in the production, right? First of all, just the plot device of having that drug released into the bottle at just the right time is so well done, because there's so many little details in that scene, which I actually didn't even pick up until I kind of watched it a little more carefully for the purposes of this review, right? You've got the food taster, and then you've got, obviously the food taster, after taking a drink of the alcohol, is going to pour a little bit of it into the two wine glasses. And so Lisa has to be careful to, release the poison, or the drug, I guess you should say, it's not poison, release the drug into the bottle at just the right time. And also, you can see that the way the production is staged, she also makes a point of really watching the glasses as the server, the food taster, who's also the server, brings those glasses over to the table, and she makes sure that she picks the right one, right, and make sure that Samandal gets the tainted one. That was really nice. I loved that little touch. Also, just other little things. When Ahmed comes back to the gymnasium viewing area after trying to sabotage the operation by taking an axe to the main electrical panel, he and Hafiz share this brief look in dismay, like, well, we tried. That was just like a lovely little moment, just in the middle of all of this stuff that's going on. Little details like, the IMF adjusting the facial hair, taking the facial hair off of Samandal and putting it on King Salim. Obviously they had to do it because they didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time. But even that little thing, another nice little touch. Paris, after he comes out of the operating room and no longer has to impersonate Dr. Labashi, you can see him, he takes off his scrubs, and he also takes off contacts because Lee Bergère has a different eye color than Leonard Nimoy. Wow, nice little thing there, and it only takes a second, but I feel they just add so much. And when I see that the producers and the writers have put that much thought into the little details, it really speaks to me that, a lot of the times I do call the writers out about, oh my God, they miss things like this and this and this. And so you can't help but think, or I can't help but think, what else did they miss? But when they put this much attention into those little details, I love it. It really shows that they're really caring about what goes on in this episode. And of course, I would be totally remiss if I didn't point out that the main theme Power Up, the video that I put in here, where the king is revealed to be very much alive, is just absolute. That's like a fist pumping moment. Like, yeah, wow, that is totally awesome, and it's just a perfect way to end this episode. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, Emer, if you enjoyed it so much, why are you only giving it an A-? Well, objectively, I have to say that the basics of the plot are very, very predictable, okay? Certainly by the time the king arrives at the palace, even before then, when we're told that, the prince is going to need a kidney transplant, and the king is going to get summoned. Well, okay, we know where this is going, right? The IMF is going to pull a switcheroo. You might have even figured it out before then. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't say that it's like the most awesome plot ever in terms of the depth of the plot, or even in terms of the difficulty of the mission. Some other minor strikes against this episode. Michelle Carey as Lisa. I was going to say that I didn't think that she was good at all in this episode. I think that's kind of unfair. I'm going to kind of retract that. I don't think it's necessarily a problem with Michelle Carey, the actress. I think it's a problem with the whole Lisa role. It just seems so... It's very one-dimensional, I think. She's only there to kind of be, eye candy to attract the prince. And, there's one point where, she has this kind of back and forth with Colonel Hafiz. The one-dimensionality of her role is a negative for me. she kind of, when I was thinking about it and when I was watching this again, it really kind of reminded me of Miss Elizabeth. May she rest in peace. She was a lovely woman from the World Wrestling Federation. You know, she was a valet for the wrestler who happened to be her husband, Randy Savage, who's also passed. Um, and basically, all she did was she would come to the ring and she would look concerned. Right? She was a very one-dimensional character. She didn't really have a lot of depth, and that's really what I see here from this Lisa character. There's no depth to this character at all. So that to me is a strike against the episode. I can't really put this one up there against the Elite because of little things like that. One other thing that did bother me, there is a point in the episode where Dr. Labashi gets Bayram to get the pieces of the bottle which was broken so that it could be examined in his lab. And apparently there's a point in this episode where he discovers something. But we never find out what that is. And I really wish, like, even one little bit of dialogue or whatever might have given us a little bit of a clue. Did he actually find something? Does he just suspect something? Like what happened there? And it's almost like, the producers feel that they didn't have enough time in this episode to tell us. Well, I mean, a lot of time was spent, in the gymnasium during the operation. I think they could have spared 5 seconds to put in an extra line of dialogue. I really would, that little detail, might have added to the episode as well. And it left me wondering, like, come on, you guys, you got to give us something on that. They gave us so many good little details during the rest of the episode, which I outlined. And, missing that one to me, that would have been just a real simple thing that they could have thrown in there. Anyway, that's just what I felt. I still think it's really good. That's why I'm going to give it an A-, and I'm going to stick with that. I think a lot of people might disagree and say that, nah, the plot is very kind of ordinary and, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Yeah, I get that. That is a strike against the episode, no doubt. But it really is entertaining. The last thing I think that I will say is just in terms of the antagonists themselves. Are they schmucks? No, I wouldn't say necessarily that Hatafis or Samandal, if you want to consider him the antagonist of this episode, are schmucks. The IMF earns their win. That said, there is a fair bit of kind of lameness to go around. Hatafis is a pretty single-minded dude. All he wants is power and money, and that he's ambitious. And Samandal is very much the same way. So you could say that they are kind of easily manipulated, and it's easy for the IMF to kind of put them in the position that they want them to be. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So are they the sharpest knives in the drawer? No, they're not. So that would probably be the only other negative I could say with regards to the antagonists themselves. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you as always for watching. It's always appreciated. Please like this episode. Please subscribe to my channel, and please leave your comments. Always love to hear what you have to say. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.